everybody. We're live with the Metal Lab. It's episode 133, and I am joined with a three-man crew this week. I've got Mike.
What up?
Been a while since we've seen you, sir.
Yeah,
we got Jay.
Oh, hi there.
All right, so we got a little time this week. How's your week in Heroclix been? And Mike, it's been a while since we've seen you, so you probably got a lot of stories.
I have so many stories. Actually, I don't. I took a little break because I was very, very busy with another part of my life that I've talked about online before, which is going exceptionally well. But this week in Heroclix, I went to face-to-face games yesterday and played in their set release for Elseworlds, and I had a really good time. I ended up with a named theme team, which is a rarity as far as I understand it in terms of field. Ended up with two of the Cowboy Wonder Woman with Kid Flash, Cowboy Kid Flash, and the Nail Green Lantern for a Justice League theme team. And that giant reach on that Nail dude is actually really good. I like it. Giant reach 3. People do not expect it. They come up and they base him, and then he's behind my other dude, and I'm just reaching through them because it ignores characters. Yeah, right in the face. And then today ran a little meta tournament, just some practice for provincial states or states provincials, depending on where you're from. And had a good time. Got to test out some new figures. In fact, I played with, as I mentioned to you guys a few minutes ago off camera, the new SR Green Lantern, the one that brings people back. It's kind of like the inverse ID card effect, and pretty good effect, in fact, on a mystical theme team with a little bit of Colossal Retaliation from Dormammu. Jakeem Thunder, of course, as being the main man who is possessed and assigned, and you can fill in the blanks there, I'm sure, because it's pretty obvious what you should possess and assign to him. Had a great time. Jay was there, and I'm sure he can probably take it from here.
All right, Jay.
I played 401's release event on Thursday. I ended up playing Shifting Focus Batman, although no Shifting Focus. Common Green Lantern, who's the Super Taxi. The Uncommon Green Lantern, because running shot Pulse Wave is always a good thing. Leatherwing, because I needed yet another Perplex, and he's just really good in general. And then I finished it off with a Clockwork Man who actually did some good stuff there. So I ended up getting a bye the first round and then winning my next 2 games. So I went 3-0 technically, and I placed second because bye points did not trump actually winning 3 actual games. So that was fun. I really wish that Green Lantern worked as an ID card because we have no call-in Pulse Wave anymore. That'll be good. That'll be a good thing to have in the current environment, because unfortunately, as discussed previously, it doesn't work because of how the whole beginning of the game wording works.
Nothing. Carry on.
Then I played in the previously mentioned 401 games tournament, which I ended up winning, but I'm not going to point out my team here because I'm planning on writing a Majestics team article about it, which is premium. So that will be up hopefully soon.
All right, cool. Myself, I got a chance to go to the Comic Warehouse for our sealed for Elseworlds. Had a lot of fun. Ended up pulling a Chase Green Arrow, which is great because me and Amber have been a little tight on money right now, and trying to run down all the chases you need just to compete right now is not an ideal situation for us right now. But we have to pull. I happened to pull that in the sealed, which was great. I ended up getting second place, losing to a Superman Zod, the rare Superman, teamed up with the uncommon Green Lantern. Telekinesis and a hypersonic super strengther who makes more objects when he kills things, and he's generally one-shotting everything in this set. Is pretty ruthless. So I put up a fight. There was a couple of situations where breakaway sidesteps were not going my way, and I played with the Green Arrow, the Necron the Bat God, the Diana Prince Justice Rider, along with the Martian Manhunter Justice Rider. I wish I could have got some more characters to Justice Rider off of, but what can you do, right? It was still a lot of fun. I was happy to pull the chase and happy to to enjoy. It's a really enjoyable sealed set, but there are some real standout figures in the set that make it a little bit of a rough go. You know, pray that nobody pulls that Chase Superman kind of situation.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, it was a great experience as a set. And there's not much in the way of news. If you're interested in what the top 8 teams from Heroclix Worlds are, Heroclix.com. Go to the press room. They have actually, sorry, it's the top 4 builds are there. But a lot, the relevancy of them has kind of changed. What with the watch list we've recently covered, and how it's kind of changed the way the Goblin King works and the Pim Tank. So a lot of the top 4 is going to function a little differently. But that does bring us into what's coming up in the next 2 weekends, and that is the ROC State and Provincial tournaments. States if you're in the USA, provincials if you're in Canada, and whatever dividing line that you separate your country with, wherever you may be. I myself am. I think we've kind of finalized the plans with Tom. I'm going to the Quebec one because I'm running the Ontario one, and I believe Jay, you're coming with us as well.
Yeah.
And Mike, are you?
When is it?
Next weekend.
Yeah, all right.
Better get in touch with Tom.
All right.
But yeah, that's our big plan to get down there, and then we also have the Ontario one. So, depending on which state or province you're coming from, it's either going to be next weekend, or rather this coming weekend, or the weekend thereafter. If you want to check it out, hcrealms.com. Check out under the ROC tab and look for the state championships. I'll pull up an image of it later on. But we want to talk, of course, about the state of the metagame going into that. Because we've had the watch list kind of crush a couple figures that we were planning on seeing. It's a ROC event, so Felix Faust wouldn't have been an issue, but guess what? Even WizKids thinks he shouldn't be an issue. So there we go. Oh,
he's gone.
Do you still have the leftovers of your Faust from last week? Because a lot of people were wondering what happened to him.
Oh, I can totally grab those. 1 second.
Anyway, what we're going to be talking about is what we think we're going to see, what we're planning on seeing, what we might be considering playing ourselves. And of course, with Elseworlds having just come out, we got to talk what's important coming from that set. It's a new release, and it will be legal for both the event. But of course, this is a joke. Jay last week asked, "Does Faust blend?" Jay, what does he look like when he's blended?
Looks like drugs, apparently.
He looks like crystal meth. In the metal.
I'm going to snort it and absorb his power.
We're a new type of lab now. All right. With that said, I want to get the panel's opinions.
The meth lab, yay.
What are we all thinking? What are we all thinking we're going to see? And if you happen to be watching us live in the chat right now, I want to hear what your opinions are. And if we miss anything, we'll catch your ideas while we go. But Mike, what do you think after the big change in the watch list and Elseworlds is out, what should we be looking for? What should we be planning for?
Well, I mean, it goes without saying, but I will say it. The Pim Tank is gone.
Peace!
See you later. Yeah, way to make it kind of worthless at this point. Not really worthless, but just not nearly as indispensable as it was because it was on every single team before we saw those around us. So from the new stuff, I mean, I'm looking at using that new Green Lantern that I was mentioning before. I haven't been in and around as much as I'd like to lately, so my knowledge base is waning. This is this is a game where you got to be on it all the time in order to really get into it. I mean, and I guess it'd be the same with any sport, though. You get a little rusty when you're out for a little while. I'm just hoping to see more variety because I think that with less of those options, I mean, obviously we're going to see a lot of Jakeem because Jakeem is still amazing. New rules will make him a little bit less amazing, but then you just assign Supreme Intelligence to him and you give him Stealth. So you can't outwit him as long as he's in some hindering in that particular case. That's one thought that came to mind immediately. Yeah, I'm just hoping to see a lot more variety. And I mean, we're talking about going to Canadian tournaments, so there should be some variety anyway. We generally do have a lot more variety to our teams. A little less winning oriented, although I mean everybody wants to win. And a little bit more creativity and individuality. And Mommy says that I can do anything with my life. In Heroclix. It's just, encourages me every day and makes me a sandwich. That's the Canadian meta.
She should make you less sandwiches.
Hey, was that a fat joke?
Hey, pot! Hey, pot! Is the kettle black?
So off topic, there was I don't know if I shared this with you guys already, but there was a heckler who went, "Hey, you're fat!" And so I just went, "Whoo!" I grew this, man. I know. It's here. You know, what can I do?
I'm still new to it myself, too, so I still kind of call people out. I was like, wait a second. Oh, so am I.
Well, do you ever like pass a mirror and go, "Who the fuck?" Oh, pardon my language, guys.
It's all right. I'm gonna go turn off the monetization now.
You scare yourself when you do that. Yeah.
All right, man. Jay, your thoughts? What are we gonna see from Elseworlds? What are we gonna see in the competitive play as it stands right now?
I think most of Elseworlds' impact is going to be via call-in. I think we've gone into some detail as far as all the various amazing figures that are probably best off as a call-in, like the Take a Bullet Flash or Chase Green Arrow, arguably, or just so many. Al Jordan looks very appealing. I'm sure somebody will try and make him work, especially because he shares Mystical with Jakeem. But in the general sense, just the Pim Tank alone changes so much because we now have the option of playing certain teams that were otherwise not viable. Like ID card, or that's more fast, but like cluster-based teams, like I am reminded of Drake Conrad's Man-Thing, plus Doctor Strange's team that just got wrecked by Pim Tanks. Or in the Faust case, not that this applied for states as much, but you can actually run stuff that relies on power actions because there's no energy dampeners anymore. So that's going to be good. And yeah, there should be more variety. Although it's going to be weird how Jakeem is basically the most obvious pick, therefore making it easier to counter build. So it's a question of whether or not people are going to make interesting and newer Jakeem builds, considering that he's only less than half your force, or if there's going to be something that just counters him that people think of. Or if it's just going to evolve into the same Jakeem team and who is just the best pilot.
Well, I kind of looked at the Superman recently, and I was iffy on him. I think he's going to get played. He may not win. He may not dominate, but he's going to see some top positions, some top fours, top eights, and whatnot. The more and more I look at him, the more and more aggressive he looks, and the more I start to see certain combinations that work with him that scare the daylights out of me. And there's a lot of potential in that particular character that, I mean, it just is one thing for all the charts that he has. He also comes with a 9 range. That's nuts. If you can get a good post in the middle of the board, because of the Superman team ability too, so he doesn't care about your stealth. So there's a lot of potential in that character. I think it's going to be definitely overlooked. I believe Jay already covered the Chase Green Arrow from Elseworlds is probably going to see some ID card call-ins. So many ID card call-ins.
You can play that Superman in the middle of the mud map because he doesn't care. He's the only guy who doesn't care about that mud. Just plant him right in the middle and shoot everybody. Oh man!
I guess we should mention that WizKids added all the Elseworlds maps to the allowed list.
Yeah,
including the mud map. So that's
I look
relevant.
at the mud map as a very good map for putting your range team on. If your team is very range focused, it is very limited in hiding spots, and that big middle mud area is just a death trap for anything that goes in it. So you just shoot across it, and it gives you a big bubble of range to shoot over. It's actually pretty bonkers, and I'm kind of liking it a lot. I might, depending on the team I put together, I might put it in there. The things to also consider, guys, the boxing ring is going to be out there. This isn't Worlds. Boxing ring's legal. It's going to make some teams very, very different. Be ready in some way, shape, or form to play close combat. Because if people are bringing the boxing ring, you either got to find a way to jack your attacks up so bloody high to make up for the differential, or you just be ready to fight them in the ring. Take it to the ring, if you will. Or bring your own. Consider it if you think there's a team that's going to do really well on the mud map. We'll take some of that mud away, put a boxing ring on top of it, and hide in that. That's another thing I think is going to take a lot of consideration, or going to be worth a lot of consideration. That's kind of what we're expecting in the current state of the game. I mean, there's a lot of room for creativity because certain things are a lot weaker than they used to be. But Jakeem Thunder is still very strong until those new rules show up.
Still strong.
Still so strong. And I don't think anything in Elseworlds itself kind of says, well, Jakeem Thunder got that in the bag. Because there's no real direct counter to him in that sense. It's just my musings, as it were. I know myself and apparently the guys here are all going to be in Quebec. I've actually pulled up the link now to give everybody an idea. And I've also put the link in the description below. So if you're watching live after we're done the show, you might want to refresh your browser or refresh now. Sorry, you got to watch the ad again. And check out the link in the link in the description where you can catch where all the locations are. So we're going to pull that up now. And I'm going to run through it as fast as I can. There's a lot of states and provinces. So, Alabama Buds Place games in Leeds on Sunday, August 6th. Alberta, the Century Box Calgary. I'm just going to cover what next weekends are. So Alberta at the Century Box in Calgary. Arizona, the Orc Slayer in Youngstown. Next up, Colorado, Griffin Games and Comics, Fort Collins. In Connecticut, Bobby's World of Cards and Comics in Middletown. In Georgia, Challenge Comics Games North and Games North Decal Mall in Decatur. Illinois, the Fox Comics and Games Marion. In Indiana, the Kingdom Cards and Games Kokomo. I think we're almost there. We're getting there. Louisiana, Gopher Games Mediterranean. Oh boy, I'm sorry for my kids screaming in the background there. In Maryland, Dream Wizards Rockville. Massachusetts, That's Entertainment Fitchburg. Minnesota, Level Up Games, South St. Paul. Mississippi, McCarnaby Games, Gautier. Q's Comics and Games in Dexter. Krypton Comics in Omaha in Nebraska. New Hampshire, Double Midnight Comics. Sorry, guys. We're almost there. New Mexico, Twin Suns Comics and Games, Albuquerque. In New York, Kerwin's Game Store in the Catskills. In Nova Scotia, Gametronics, New Minas. In Ohio, Empire Game Center Store in Durham. Oklahoma, Dice Addiction in Tulsa. Oregon, Putter's Family Entertainment Center in Eugene. And Pennsylvania, in Quebec, Geekitude in Montreal. In Saskatchewan, Comic Readers Downtown Regina. South Carolina, Final Round Game Shop in Somerville. And then we got in Virginia, Comics and Gaming Fairfax. And in Wisconsin, Pegasus Games Madison. Sorry, I hope I kept you guys up. That's where your locations are next weekend. If you're looking to hit up your local ROC Provincial Cups, the weekend after is all the other ones. So like I said, check that out. Plan your teams, 300 points. You got a week. For some of us, we got the week. Others, you have a little bit more time. That about covers kind of our meta snapshot, as it were. Elseworlds is there. The watch list made a big effect on a lot of the figures that are on there. Some less than others. And, we all know what to plan for now. Anything you want to add before we move on there, Mike?
Nope.
Nope. All right, Jay? Jay? No? All right, cool. Awesome. All right. With that said, guys, we're heading into the summer, and I'm also this is coming up, and this is a thing a lot of stores are having a problem with. It's hard to get butts and seats in the summer. Everybody's going to the cottage. Everybody's going camping. Everybody's doing things. So, guys, what are you doing locally to try to get those numbers up, keep people interested, keep people playing? I know, of course, we have the ROC Cup and all these things coming around the corner. But I don't know, any ideas for stores? Because, again, summer's rough. A lot of people have a lot of things to do. Kids are out of school, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think are your suggestions to keep things going, Mike?
Oh, butts in stores you're talking about? Sorry. Have interesting and elaborate scenarios, or develop, you know, a local kind of needed, like meta group of people. Like we have, you know, a good, I don't know, it's under 10 right now, and attendance-wise for us. But that's not bad for the summer. And all we do is run meta tournaments on Sundays. I guess have consistent assigned days for different types of tournaments. But also trying to bring them in with some interesting and enticing prizes. I think that the Colossals are really helping out with some of that. And that, yeah, I think the Invisible Jet's this week. So you should be able to get your hands on one of those very soon. That was the question, correct?
Yeah, yep, you got it.
Yeah,
you nailed it.
Aside from that, I would say carry around a little bag of cheap, really shitty or crappy Heroclix in your pocket. I'm really bad at the swearing thing right now.
Guy goes from comedy for a couple weeks, forgets
I can't help it, man.
The show now.
Yeah, really crappy Heroclix in your pocket that just look cool, and like hand them out to random people on the street as you pass them.
I think Jay, any other suggestions you might add to the flow of things?
I guess you could try and keep up some sort of sense of community going thing. Like we used to have, apparently, consistent OP events for people interested in the summer, but I guess that's not as much of a thing anymore. So maybe local leagues could be a good thing, and you actually incentivize people to want to come out weekly or whatever. Although you also don't want to make scenarios that are too convoluted to the point where it just turns into another game entirely, which I've seen some of, which is just a bit of a turnoff where you're reading and this game is already so complicated and then it gets to be a whole novel length of rules. So that's also good to keep in mind.
All right, awesome. If WizKids is listening, it's not the monthly OP, or it's not the major OP kit that were the problem. It was Civil War itself. It was just Civil War. That was the only one that, like, it was good. It was okay. It got a little rough with Fear itself, but it was pretty cool. War of Light was so much awesome, but it was also over a long period of time. Age of Ultron hit that hot spot. Like, it was so perfect. Like, that 4 months of Age of Ultron and the difference in the set and the coolness of the set in general, that's where I think was the perfect point.
The sweet spot.
It was such a sweet spot. And then we did Civil War. And it was just Civil War, guys. Bring back the monthly OP kit sets, etc. I thought they were great. They're a wonderful chance for everybody to get out there. And I mean, in all honesty, I think it kept butts in seats. The What If and Elseworlds idea that we had is a neat idea, but I think those sets could have been better served over 4 months or 2 months each, even as OP kit sets. Just my thoughts. And that's my call to WizKids. As a guy helping to run a store, I have no say because I can barely get out to my own store as it is because of work right now. It's not even just the summer at this point. It's been work. I've actually had to stay in the office a couple weekends, and then because I've been working a lot of long hours, sometimes time with the kids is a little bit more important than getting out and play Heroclix. My sons were a little older. I'd be bringing them with me, and they'd be with us in the store, but they're still a little out of control at this point. A little young for that to sit still. But yeah, it's been a kind of a short week for topics. There's not a lot in the way of news. Nope. We got the states coming around the corner, so it opens up the floodgates for questions, guys, and it gives us time. If you're interested in hitting Game of Thrones, we are now not going to compete with them if we can get all these questions done in the next 35 minutes. And I know a lot of you guys are out there going to see going to go watch boobs with a chance of murder. All right.
And dragons. So many dragons.
And dragons. All right. But let's get into fan questions. But before we do that, if you want to support us, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. We do have the action tokens coming back. We have talked to our guy with the action tokens. They should be coming to us shortly, so we can get them out to you guys very shortly. There's been a slight delay. The guy has vacation. He's a life. The guy over at Big Bully Games. So he had a little bit of time that he needed to himself, which was cool. It just didn't kind of coincide with when the action tokens are ordered. They're going to be out to you guys very shortly. If you guys are interested at the $10 mark, we can send out action tokens to you guys monthly as well. It helps us support the channel. And if you also have $5 a month, you get early access to our recorded videos. We've been getting the meta fixes and dial-it-ups out on a regular basis again. So we're kind of pumped about getting those out. And, at $5 a month, you get access to those before anybody else. And even below that, at $1, all patrons get access to our monthly patron hangout, which is happening in the month of August next. As I pull it up with my mouse, it's getting very sketchy with me right now, and it shouldn't be. We're looking at August 11th for the next one. So check it out. August 11th will be our patron hangout. We do broadcast it live, so you can be a part of it and be part of the show as a result. And that's a chance for all our patrons to ask myself and Amber, and sometimes the guys on this show, whatever questions that you feel like, because, hey, you paid money, you need to ask us whatever you want. And I'm pretty sure in the month of September, I'm going to have Jay and Mike join us on the show.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Supplies!
As well as Tom, if his internet would start working. He would have been on the show today had it not been for our lovely Canadian internet service providers. And I bring up the patron because our first question comes from Michael Fedor, the man who's been a patron since we created the Patreon itself. Hey, everyone. What might be the best piece with the Asgardian keyword that not necessarily coming up in Mighty Thor? We've seen some early images from San Diego Comic-Con of some of the stuff in Mighty Thor. It looks like a lot of fun. There's a new Thor Frog of Thunder. There's a Rocket Raccoon in Iron Man armor. There's a Groot with the Hammer of Thor. So we might see some Thor core. Really excited for that. But currently with the Asgardian keyword, I'm kind of you know what's funny is I saw this question earlier and I had a chance to to look it up earlier and I still failed to do my research because the actual Asgardian keyword, I don't directly look at it on its own. I'm also buying you guys time to do the same thing.
What am I doing?
I can go if you want.
The power of vamping. Oh, look at that. Jay's ready to rock. What do you got, Jay?
I feel like in the current environment, there's a good bet that one of the good ones is going to be Loki, if only because he's bound to have the mystical keyword.
Are you talking about the con exclusive Loki? Or just
I thought we were talking about hypothetical. Wait, I thought I was talking about hypothetical. Oh, not. Oh, just not in the.
Not in Mighty Thor. What is out now? I kind of ran about Mighty Thor, so
yeah. My answer is still Con Loki, especially because with Goblin King at 175 kind of out, and Jakeem potentially on his way out, there go all the figures that are guaranteed able to see Loki. So I feel like he could make a little bit of a comeback,
Mephisto.
especially with how. Yeah, but the problem with Mephisto is that his attacking stats are mid-dial, so it's kind of more in your control when he gets there. So, not that he's really been seeing much play at full points, but that's my top of my head answer. Especially because a lot of the new rules are good for him, assuming they errata his regen plus prop power to actually work properly. Since you wouldn't normally be able to use prop on regen. But
No.
Yeah.
No, with the new one.
Mike?
Well, Jay just said what I would have said because I love Loki.
I was going to say, you have a very close love affair with that con Loki.
I do. In fact, it's funny. I used to have two of them, and then, when I saw there were so many mystical things and there were so many counters, I got rid of one. Maybe I need to get a second one again. I don't know.
New Pulse Wave is going to stop him. Jakeem Thunder ain't going anywhere.
Maybe Venom Thor? No. I don't think so. Yeah, so I think that Loki is a very good bet. I am really looking forward to Mighty Thor though. Iron Raccoon looks cool. Just any number of the Colossals. I love the Kamala Khan that they've previewed so far. I'm really looking forward to the objects because I would love to know what they do.
Oh man,
what
so
powers they add. I'm sure Blades Claws Fangs is in there somewhere.
there's a couple
But
swords.
I was kind of thinking that with that dueling sword, maybe it gives you combat reflexes.
Who knows?
Because of the style of swordplay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we saw
One thing we're missing right now, sorry, Jay, but one thing we're missing right now is a way to get reflexes. Because we could get that very easily via the sins for a while there.
That's a good point. That's a good point. My turn. I have to say it. My personal favorite may not be everybody's favorite or everybody's best. I'm calling it here though, Captain America.
Captain America.
The rare from What If. I love this character for two reasons. One, traded energy shield. Two, traded range combat expert. It's unfortunate that it comes with charge. But he's got a really cool leadership. Captain America can use leadership. If he does, succeeds while adjacent to one or more opposing characters of 150 points or less, give those characters an action token. He's got offensive leadership. Come on.
I'm offended.
And if you're so inclined and you happen to have a Captain America who's of a reasonable point values in the 100 range, say, you could switch him in. So I just wanted to be weird.
I know you're succeeding.
And I do love this, but I do love this Captain America. He served me very well in the sealed on this set.
Hey, what do you think about Thor from Nick Fury?
Also, Miss Lady Thor is very cool.
Yeah.
And she was a great call-in on one of Tom's really neat idea teams.
Mm-hmm.
She was devastating. She's got two range energy, two target energy exploding, with ignores like most things on the map except for blocking. She ignores the same things.
She ignores elevations. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really good. The more and more you see, like when it comes back, ignore elevated terrain is so strong. And just you're reminded of how good it is. You're so used to taking a step away from the edge and being like, meh, you can't get me. And then, one-armed Green Arrow's like, oh, yeah? Oh, sorry, I'm using too many arms.
Isn't he like BJ Green Arrow, really? Like, look what he's doing. Come on.
Using his teeth. All right. So next up, Mr. Mike Bockley. Hello, Metal Lab. I know there's a lot of variables that go into this, but how do you go about choosing a map to play on? Peace, everyone. When I choose a map myself, you get the choice of 3 maps when you're choosing your maps, right? So when you choose your maps, you look at it in 2 ways. One, what map can I play comfortably on? And 2, can I screw over a specific type of team? If you're a very range-focused team and you want to be able to stop your opponent from getting to you, make sure you got a lot of certain things in between you and them. Especially if you're ignoring elevated, like that Thor does. If you're ignoring elevated terrain, throw as much in between you and your opponent as you possibly can. These are things to consider. Also, mobility of team. For instance, I always pack WizKid's Office for a number of reasons. Most important of which, the Skull Ship still exists to a certain degree. And the WizKid's Office makes it basically immobile. It can barely move on that map. And that's kind of a factor, too, is whether or not you can stop a figure from being fully functional to a certain degree. And it puts it up there, one of my favorite maps to choose. I don't know. Those are the things I factor in. Mike, what do you factor in when you're choosing a map?
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I try to look at what's the most commonly used meta figure, somewhat intuitively, but still based on the evidence that we've seen in previous tournaments. Now, if we're facing a brand new meta like we are now, you can't really do that. But my meaning in that is that I look at for instance, Krang. Whoa, what's going to be good against Krang? Well, something that's indoor and has lots of walls. Just has the various things to counter that individual piece, or the teams that he's on in general. I guess another good example would be shredders, also once again walls, try and keep them away from you, etc. Throw, and there's more than just map wise. Obviously, you're going to want a little bit of barrier, blah blah blah. Just a way to get around them. I think that the best example that I can think of in terms of an obvious way to determine what kind of map to choose is, yes, that Lady Thor is a good example, but Nick Fury, when he was the mainstay of many teams, like him with Rocket Raccoon and Banshee, that particular team, we had Ryut at the time, and all it was elevation, so that you could keep your distance and still be able to fire at people constantly. So anything that can give you like a subtle advantage or not so subtle advantage. Like earlier when we were talking about that Superman figure and I screamed out, "Oh my God, the mud map!" Well, he can stand in the middle of the mud map, and because he has Superman ally team ability, and he can move around freely, but no one else can. So in order to get to him, they either have to fire across hindering, and there's not a lot of sees through hindering right now in the meta. There still is some, but there's not a huge amount. So he's going to get a defensive bonus. Either that or they have to enter it and then get to him, because they're going to stop when they go into it no matter what. Yeah, that's another good example.
The mud is considered water terrain, though, isn't it?
It's hindering and water.
Well, my understanding is that it's water terrain that you can't ignore hindering or ignore water to walk over.
That's right.
The difference is that Superman ally says you treat hindering terrain as clear.
It doesn't grant improved movement.
And that's where I was going with that, is to make sure that everybody understands.
Yeah.
The mud map itself specifically stops, ignores hindering, improved movement, that symbol set, which the Superman ally, the Ultimates team ability, and the Avengers Initiative team ability do not specifically say. They specifically say these characters can ignore movement for the purposes of movement or line of fire. So something to keep in mind when you're considering that map. You don't necessarily have to say, I'm going to use the flight portion of this. I'm just going to use the Superman portion of this to get over this. So, you're good. Jay, anything you want to add to the cartographers conversation?
The one that we're doing without Tom, sadly.
Tom is the cartographer.
Yeah, he really is. It's kind of a shame.
Yeah. I guess in general, I like having options. For example, I like the WizKids Office because it's a very closed-in option, depending on what your opponent's playing. Like if your opponent has a lot of range, that's good against them, or having a semi-open kind of map with some cover, but not necessarily the whole map, like how the Manhattan Bridge has little pockets of blocking, so you can advance a little bit, but it's not fully open. And I guess now there's more fully open maps, like how I think there's maybe one or two just squares of blocking terrain on that sporting arena map. So if you pick that map, there's just no hiding, really. So just having different options of different kinds of contingencies can be good. Like if you have your one option for range, or if you have your one option for just getting up there as quickly as possible and doing damage. And also, I don't see any reason why one would not pack the WizKids Office right now. I don't remember the last time I did not include it on a build.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good in general to memorize or to familiarize yourself with the maps. Like how, for example, Sam Cap is a thing now, giving all that ridiculous swing. But on certain maps, like the Manhattan Bridge and the chemical plant, the all pink one from Civil War, there are little pockets of a couple square elevated things. So if you park yourself up there, which in the case of Manhattan Bridge is in the starting area, and you use a barrier, like the light wall marker, you can just say, you can't touch me, which is what I did earlier today. And I literally, my opponent was playing Sam Cap, could do nothing. So trying to figure out what maps can best hard counter stuff, like Jason said, is always a good idea.
Yeah. So a couple good ideas going into map. Maps is always it's a really good topic. It's one of the most open topics in the game of Heroclix. So just something to think about, and always keep thinking about, keep on top of. There was a time when I was a young Heroclix player, as it were, and I loved collecting maps, but I didn't know about their effect on the game. Now I look at it and say, oh my God, it could be like the most important thing that most important decision you make in the game of Heroclix. All right. Next up.
I have a bit of a I just wanted to kind of follow up on that. Because theme gives a map roll bonus, how important do we all think theme is right now?
I think it's pretty important personally.
It's a 50-50 trap. Don't force it if it makes your team not that great. But if you can make a great team that happens to be a theme team, that's an extra bonus on top of what's already supposed to be a good team. And that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's when it comes to competitive play, you got to look at, is it more important to just have a good team, or is it more important to is the extra that I get from being a theme team worth the work? That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm having some weird thoughts with it right now, considering how there's basically one dominant figure. So suppose you're playing a Jakeem and there's another Jakeem. It's not like their map choice is going to totally be good for their Jakeem, but totally awful for your Jakeem. So wanting map choice isn't necessarily the most important thing right now. I guess depending on what you're playing, really. Like in that case, if you're yourself playing Jakeem right now.
Yeah.
But if you're playing some other kind of team and you're playing against something entirely different, maybe there's more of a thought of wanting theme. Like wanting to use a Sam Cap team with Overdrive versus using a Doc Ock team with a theme there.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Dan Durrett. Will Al Jordan be an under-the-radar piece in a meta of Jakeem and Goblin King? Also, is collecting an entire set necessary as it gets very expensive? The second part of your question, absolutely not. If you want to be a competitive player, just get what you need. Getting everything is kind of some players' things and some other players' not things. Myself and Amber, we collect the full collection for when we play games on the channel. We just like to keep variety going. We like to keep it themed to a certain degree. And like to make sure that we have a lot of variety, a lot of things to work with on it. But it is not necessary to be a competitive player. It is necessary if you have Jay and Tom and Mike on your team, and they perpetually need to borrow things from you.
It's true. That's our secret, everybody.
So if your goal in life is to be a Heroclix librarian, then let me tell you, it is perfectly worth it to collect everything. But if you don't want to be looking through your collection going, did I loan that to somebody, and wondering if somebody still has your Agent 13, I would not suggest it at all. But all jokes aside, let's get back to Al Jordan. Is he an under-the-radar piece? I do not think so. In fact, I think he's got a chance to possibly replace the Goblin King for a number of reasons. One of which is that he already comes with Perplex, and Perplex, that's great. And a lot of times when you're playing 75-point Goblin King, that is one of the two powers you choose. In addition, you can choose another power, and then sometimes with the Goblin King, you have to choose Earthbound to be able to carry him. You can choose Tiny with Al Jordan, and you can carry him around. What's more, he's got one extra click, and he comes with 18 defense with Energy Shield. He's only an extra 15 points. I think anybody overlooking him needs to look twice, personally. That's my thoughts. I don't know. Mike, Al Jordan?
That's fair. Yeah, no, you kind of covered it.
Yeah. Jay?
Yeah, I think I mentioned before, just sharing Mystical with Jakeem just automatically gives him a little bit of a boost.
Oh, can I mention one more thing? Post-watch list, he's indomitable.
Yeah, just looking at him again, his raw numbers are just pretty solid. Like those are that's a string of 18 defenses right there. With good. I like that he has Energy Shield to complement the team. Yeah, I think he's going to be played less than he should.
I know guys can play this season. Right, next up.
Little French piece that Jason will always play, yes.
Yeah, little French
pieces are my thing.
I'm going to be playing all the time, and everybody's going to tell me to stop doing it, but I'm never going to stop. All right. It's official, guys. It's an episode. I didn't have paper on this one. Chris Stockhouse has a question for us.
Sweet. Bring it.
Chris Stockhouse's wonderful stamp that he made for us, as we always used to say in the early days, when Chris Stockhouse asks a question, put a stamp on it. It's an episode. All right. He goes on. And he always starts so wonderfully. Hello, Metal Lab. I just wanted to wish everyone luck for states these next 2 weekends. States or provincials. Hopefully everyone has a lot of fun and does really well. Well, not everyone can do really well, unfortunately. Here's a couple questions for you. For a non-Heroclix question, what was your favorite trailer that premiered at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend that you have seen? And which figure shown at San Diego Comic-Con are you most excited for? And it goes on with a Heroclix meta question. Where do you see the Resurrection Green Lantern fitting into the meta? Is she your way to bring back a Jakeem main attacker for one last turn of effectiveness? Or is she feeding your opponents too many points? Could she be called in via Zatanna ID card? I don't know about that. Because she's
she can't.
No, she can't be called in by that.
The real name on that is weird. So
there's a comma. It's not a slash, it's a comma. So like Superior Spider-Man, that's a no.
Fair enough. All right, so everybody's jumping on the no bandwagon now. But let's start with the non-hero question. What was your favorite trailer that premiered at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend that you haven't seen? And I believe Tom would agree with me on this one. Hulk like raging fire. Thor like small foldering fire. The Thor Ragnarok trailer.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I love it, man. So cool.
Wait, is that not just a Hulk movie?
It is Hulk Ragnarok. I don't care what
are you the god of again?
Exactly. We had a fight. I won. That doesn't sound right.
I won easily. I love the soundtrack even in the trailer. Who knows if that'll make it to the actual thing. I kind of like it was almost like, you know, semi sci-fi sort of horror-ish from the 80s. Music in the background,
80s sci-fi vibe to it that I hope they keep in the movie.
I just hope it's not too cheesy. I just hope it's not too cheesy for that, you know?
Yeah, it feels on the lines of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I feel like they could be skirting the line too if they're not careful.
Right.
Is everybody seem to agree on Thor Ragnarok right now, or?
Definitely.
We're good? Cool. I was a little caught off guard by Bright, to be brutally honest. I'm more interested in it than I should be, but that's because it's on Netflix and I can turn it off when I'm done. I'm not confined to a theater on that one. All right, but for the real question, Resurrection Green Lantern, what are we seeing for it? I don't think it's a Jakeem tool. I think it's a Colossal Retaliation tool. Bring it back for one click. It's already a small point character. Get that extra retaliation in. Why not, right? Generally when you use a retaliation, you expect to lose a retaliator, right? Why not throw it in again when you can retaliate again, right? That's kind of the thoughts. And it's a small points to lose that you can do extra free damage with, basically, in a lot of cases. Or with an Ameridroid, bring another guy back over to my team. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I used this today. I exactly what you're talking about. I had played her on a Jakeem team with a Colossal Retaliator. So both of you were right. Both of you are correct. So, yeah, she brought back Jakeem after he got nuked by a Superman. And he came back and did quite a bit of damage in that just one turn. The only problem is you can't pick powers, etc., because she brings him back after the beginning of the turn. So, you know, he still is an 11 attack with 4 damage and prob. So, you know, that's well worth it. And you don't score him again unless he gets nuked, right? So, and he's 8 clicks long, and I'm assuming if you have half a brain, you're playing him at full points at click 1, sorry, in that particular case. She does that for him, and then she does it for other characters too. So she brought back Jakeem. She brought back SR Green Lantern from Joker's Wild to do barrier for another turn to keep her safe, actually, in that particular case. And then brought back Dormammu, who'd been kicked off the board. 35-point Colossal Retaliation Dormammu. And so that worked out really, really well. I ended up losing that match, but it was still really cool to see it in action. And it was very, very effective. I happen to be very rusty at the moment, so I screwed up the match in other ways. But, yeah, great ideas there.
All right. Jay?
As far as the Jakeem thing you said, isn't her thing a free action?
Her thing's a free action that happens to give an action token.
Yeah.
Right. So under current rules, she would work well with Jakeem. I think she's probably going to see more play after we see the 8 new Colossal Retaliators in Thor? Is it something like that?
Well, if there's 8 new Colossals, we can generally plan on each Colossal that happens to happen to be a Retaliator. So yeah, it could be 8 new Retaliators. That's what it could be looking like.
What else? She's really weird because she's obviously a good figure, but the problem for your opponent is she has no combat stats. So do you attack her before anything dies, therefore letting them do more damage to you while you waste time killing this thing?
Yeah.
Or do you wait for her to do her thing while you take care of other characters who then come back to haunt you afterwards? So it's one of those pieces that forces your opponent to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And the more decisions they have to make, the worse off they can end off being. So I think she's almost as much of a mind game piece as anything else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A couple things to be careful of when we're playing this character is, like Jay said, make sure you're getting that Jakeem off at the beginning of the turn. And, of course, in the new rules, that's going to be worthless because free actions won't be able to be taken at the beginning of the turn. You also have to be adjacent to the resurrection marker. I'm just going over the rules for people to be careful of.
Yeah.
So, you know, but one resurrection marker doesn't necessarily have to be the same one that character came from. If my Colossus Retaliator died over here and I happen to be next to that resurrection marker, and then Jakeem Thunder died over here, I can use this one that I happen to be next to bring back the Jakeem Thunder. The auction version of that one. All right. We're getting into the chat, guys, so if you have those questions, get them in the last second there. Next up, Mike. Oh, sorry, we got some before that. Guys, when we're in the live chat, try to put question in capital letters beforehand to try to make sure we get my attention properly. I do have a pretty good eye for this, but you know, it helps me a little bit. But Mike Messina, do you think the common Green Lantern will see a lot of play? I think you'll see some play, but because Overdrive exists and does what he does without penalty, really, I think we're still going to see the Overdrive. And I don't know how the rotation schedule is going to work on this one. I feel like it is going to work in his favor, though. When Overdrive is gone, the Green Lantern will probably replace him, but then there's a new carry rules where it's like -1 per character you carry. So I don't think the Green Lantern capability will be used to its fullest in most cases, even with bonuses and whatnot, because you could calculate bonuses after all the modifiers, right? So even if you have a Sam Wilson cap, you're carrying 8 characters. Under the new rules, if I remember correctly, you're still going to be -3 to your movement or something ridiculous like that. But yeah, no, I think he's going to see some play, especially if he can make I think he'll be used in a case where a theme team can be made as an alternative to something like Overdrive, because that 5 or 6, the role of 5 or 6 to be able to do something with somebody of higher points than him does have a lot of potential. But it's going to be one of those situations where you're 90% of the way to a theme team, but then something that you had for carrying didn't hit it. That's kind of where I see him. Mike?
What was the question again, quickly?
The common Green Lantern, the 55-point Green Lantern from what?
55-point Green Lantern. Which one is that one again? Just remind me offhand. 55 points.
Here, you know what? I'll pull them up so people.
You know what? It's okay. I got them right here. It's fine.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Green Lantern. You know, go on to Jay for a second. I'll help you get him.
Jay, your thoughts?
I think his problem is his unreliability, because obviously you have to roll d6. Although I was trying to build with him earlier, using Mixie with him to hopefully guarantee a 5 or 6 to actually be able to do that. So if you can carry Mixie up with a pocket 5 or 6 on Mixie's card, and then pulse wave your opponent's entire team and push them out while having another attacker, that could be some interesting stuff. But that's just so specific.
Very niche.
It's like, listen to these specific set of situations that Jay has set up that could possibly, maybe, make it work.
Yeah. No, I think the other problem is...
I don't think he's that usable personally, though. No.
So you had something else you want to add, Jay?
Yeah, he's just... The other problem is he's almost twice as expensive as Overdrive and can't ignore speed symbols, which... I guess it's not as important these days because your pick-a-power character can choose Earthbound. But still, you're just getting more for less, really. And the 1 in 3 is just not reliable enough to spend twice the number of points on, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd rather use Renatilli for the point value. You know what I mean? Like, it's the utility on top of it with the prob and everything else. Yeah, it's just... Yeah, if he was... 15 points cheaper.
Again, it's that whole situation where Overdrive just does so much of what he does better now. All right. Next up, Mike Mayer. He asks, what are the top maps we should expect to plan for in states? Well, I think the WizKids office is definitely one you need to plan for. Look up your ROC maps, so keep an eye on those. because they could have a major factor in what's going down, as it were. So WizKid's office, keep an eye on the rock maps, the mud map, as we've said. What was another one that we saw a lot of at Worlds? I'm trying to remember. Oh, you know what? Howard Brock made effective use of the indoor Arthur's Castle, I think it is. Or I don't remember if that was the name of that, but I think it was the one that came with the starter kit. Keep an eye open on that one. It's got a big block of indoor blocking that blocks off 2 elevated positions, which is really, really interesting in the way that indoor affects with elevated. Anyway, I don't know. I think that's an interesting map. What do you think, Mike?
Once again, sorry, I'm doing too many things. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Maps to plan or to expect out of states.
Maps to expect out of states?
Yeah.
Or in states, rather?
In states, yeah, sorry.
I think we kind of covered that earlier with the whole WizKids office thing. That's a big one. Probably cargo ship. Not sure if you said that already.
Yeah.
I'd say mud map from the new stuff, for sure. Yeah. Those are pretty safe bets, I'd say.
Jay?
Between Jakeem being the thing, Green Lantern being his JSA buddy, and making the Great Barrier, I think that it's almost definitely going to be WizKid's office for most scene, or an equivalent indoor annoying map, especially now that we have Cosmic Spider-Man to blow through those walls for you. Please and thank you.
Mm.
All right. We're going to hit the lightning round, guys, because we got 2 more questions, and Mike needs to hit Game of Thrones.
That's okay. That's exactly it.
Right. So, Luke Scheffenacher, what team should I play? Chase, Green Arrow, Goblin with Cosmic, with Eclipso, and Supreme on Goblin? Oh, jeez. Oh, all right. Whichever one tests better. Sorry, I'm trying to read his teams, and I can't quite understand.
Is this a critique a team thing?
We try to avoid that too much, or choosing your team for you, because if it sucks, you come back to us like, "Why'd you choose that team?"
Oh, why are you misleading me? Are you trying to ruin my life?
No, we can't do that. It's unsafe territory. But take both teams, test them against other teams, whichever one tests better, feels better. Play that one. All right, and then one more.
Set up a tournament like through your local, and where it's practice for states, and you can play multiple teams in the same tournament. That's what we do here.
Yep. Jay, anything you want to add on to that, or are you good for that advice?
Just trying to read that team is giving me a headache.
Okay, cool.
Formatting is important.
Yeah. Guys, try to make, if you want us to read something, use the Facebook. Try not to, trying to get a team out of chat is ridiculous. Sorry, Luke. But he does want to know what, now that the Elseworlds set is out, what piece will we see an awful lot of? I feel like Al Jordan is going to be seen more than people expect, because I opened my big fat mouth. But for sure, the Green Arrow on sidelines. That's a given. That Green Arrow on sidelines is going to be everywhere. And Elijah Snow. Elijah Snow is going to be out there as well. Mike, your thoughts?
What was the question again? I'm the worst. I'm so sorry, guys.
The most stuff from Elseworlds in the meta.
What are the things that we're going to see?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
What do you think we're going to see the most of?
Well, I mean, we covered most of it previously. I think we're going to see that Green Lantern we were just talking about in the 2 questions ago, I guess, the Chris Stockhouse question. Yeah. We're definitely going to see Elijah Snow. We're definitely going to see I think that you were talking about him earlier. He's the knockoff of he's like the Middle Eastern version of Green Lantern. What's it called again?
Al Jordan.
Al Jordan, yeah, we're definitely going to see that. It will be more fringe, as was discussed. Aside from that, we'll see the Superman. Yeah.
Cool. Jay?
Shifting focus Superman, maybe shifting focus Batman. Uncommon Flash as a call-in. Maybe the drummer. The Ray at lower points, almost for sure. The higher points is interesting too. Obviously Green Arrow. I really, really like the Super Diana Prince. And as a regular character, maybe King Aquaman, Elijah Snow, and somebody's going to want to play Superman.
There is one I missed. Skyscraper Wonder Woman.
Yeah. There you go.
She good. All right. On that note, guys, thank you very much for joining me, Mike and Jay. Thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys for watching in the archives. I want to thank our sponsors over at hcrealms.com. While you're at hcrealms.com, you got to be going there for Heroclix advice, man. All kinds of Heroclix stuff. Check out the unit section. Build your teams there. And while you're there, click on the shop button, buy some cool stuff, and shop for some neato stuff. And put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase. As well, we want to thank the guys over at MajesticCCG.com. Check them out at MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. At $3 a month, you get access to some of the great minds in the games of Heroclix. And I'm also working on a couple more articles to get back out there into the article writing field. Jay is a regular contributor there as well. So check them out again, MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. Without further ado, guys, it's been a wonderful time. Next week is States. Week afterwards, States. It's a conversation on all of our minds. Without further ado, guys, I want to say get those teams ready and get some practice in. Because practice, Mike,
makes
your
team
matter.
Oh, God.
Headphone
warning, man. Headphone warning. Have a good night, everybody.